Master Mold came out yesterday and I played with it for a couple hours, and I'm here to tell you if it's worth picking up for the 6,000 collector's tokens that you'd have to spend on it in the shop. Probably not, but we do have a patch coming next week where they're going to change the collection shop a little bit. We'll have to see what comes with that. Maybe it'll be easier to acquire some cards in different ways. Maybe it'll be worth picking up then. I do think that the reason it's not worth picking up is not because it's not a great card. It's mainly because of the other cards that are coming this month and cards coming in the future. And if you have to pick and choose the cards, each card that you're picking up in addition to the collector's tokens that you acquire throughout a month from your free to play collector's tokens is going to cost you a decent amount. Like if you're spending $200 for a card, maybe Master Mold is not the one you want to spend on. We've got Negasonic Teenage Warhead, and we have Kitty Pryde coming, which both are going to be probably very good cards, good staple tech card, a good staple just card to be played in a sort of balanced zoo deck. I think both those cards are going to be better than Master Mold. Master Mold, though, I did play it. I do think it's a pretty good card. We did have a pretty good positive win rate with the deck, probably anywhere from like 70% win rate with it when we were purposely trying to win. There were a couple games where we were just memeing, trying to stay in. But I do think that the card itself feels really, really strong when you play it on turn 2. You play this card out, adding 2 Sentinels to your hand. It really clogs up people's hands early if they're not able to play anything. So if they're not playing a deck with many low-cost cards, it's going to be really hard. Or if they're playing like a Thanos deck where they're drawing a bunch of cards, again, they're just not going to get those card draws because you're clogging up their hand. And it becomes much, much harder for them to ever clear it out if you get it out there early. And if you're ever able to like duplicate the Master Mold in any way with like cloning VATs or anything like that, you can really clog it up a lot. So I think this card played out early, really good. You can also play it out later if you get a Ronin out there, a Ronin Mystique out there, because it's going to be worth that extra power to play it later if you're able to get those cards onto the board. So let's take a look at a couple of the decks that I think this goes into. First up, we have our molding deck. So this deck is our good stuff list. So as you can see, it's running very similar cards to my latest good stuff package. It's got Dr. Doom Magneto top end, Arrow Finisher. It's got the good cards Maximus, Lizard, Iceman, some other tech cards, Cosmo, Killmonger, Shang-Chi, just for the current meta. And then Master Mold and Ronin. So Ronin, really strong card with Master Mold. It's basically a dinosaur. You don't really need the Dino anymore with the Ronin in there. So Maximus and Master Mold both giving cards to your opponent, both filling up their hand. You can play those out later in the game or just on curve as well. So one consideration is that you might not need the White Queen anymore just because it doesn't really help build up your hand for anything, because previously this deck was running Dinosaur, but White Queen is still just a strong card, giving you that information about your opponent, and also giving you an extra potential turn 6 play or 6 cost card or high cost card depending on what your opponent has. So I do think that that is a consideration as well. And one good thing about this deck is that it does not run any other Series 5 or 4 cards other than the new card Master Mold. So if you just happen to want to pick up Master Mold, fit into a deck, and you don't have many Series 4 or 5 cards, this might be the package for you. But if you are looking for a little bit more, we do have this other deck. This one I liked a little bit better. It runs the Zabu Darkhawk package. It does have Absorbing Man in here. I would say Absorbing Man would be the first card to cut. I don't think I really played Absorbing Man much in this when I was playing it out. So I think that that is a consideration. I do like, obviously, Rockslide and Korg to build up your Darkhawk. Then you have Master Mold to build up the Ronin. I wouldn't recommend putting Maximus in this list, even though it does fill up the opponent's hand for Ronin. It does draw cards from your opponent's deck potentially, which would lower your effectiveness of your Darkhawk. So it's not as good. But yeah, I put in just the Sarah and Arrow. So this is more of a tech list where you're able to manipulate priority for the final turn and try and play out a couple cards on the final turn. If you're able to get Zabu and Sarah, all of your 4 costs are going to be only 2, like the old Zabu. So maybe swapping out that Absorb Man for an Enchantress or something else good like that could be really useful. Highly recommend this deck as well if you're picking up Master Mold. Lastly, I got this next list, from our good friend Cozy. He sent this over while we were streaming the other day. We gave it a little bit of try. I'm personally not a huge fan of Chavez, but it was a pretty fun deck. Like, Chavez in this deck will let you draw your early stuff a little bit earlier, but again, on turn 6, I felt like I never really wanted to play Chavez out with this deck on turn 6, so it did feel like a dead draw a lot of times. But in the end, I do think that this deck is still pretty strong. You have the Bass cards. Chavez is a big card that doesn't get drawn, so Bass still only affects the other cards in your hand. And then you have like Black Widow and Master Mold that you can beast. You can also beast back some other cards. You might want to try and fit something like Hood in here. Could also work pretty well, I think, with this deck. But yeah, I think with the Master Mold and Black Widow, it'll clog up your opponent's hand, but also stop your opponent from drawing. I do think the Black Widow in this deck is kind of a little bit hard to get working with Ronin properly, just because Black Widow technically stops a card coming into your opponent's hand for Ronin. So there is that. But I do think that this is something that's like fun, could be tweaked a little bit. Take a look at this and maybe tweak it. I'm not going to play any games with this one, but we're going to play some games with the other two decks just to show you guys how to play those out. Check out the games. Also, feel free to subscribe to the channel while you're here. So here in the first game, we have the molding deck, the good stuff list. We didn't draw any of our lower cost cards. Obviously, we want to get Iceman, Master Mold, Lizard out there as fast as possible. Unfortunately, by turn 2, we did not pick up any of those cards. This will happen occasionally. Rickety Bridge is pretty lucky for him with the Hood. We could start by drawing him cards. He does look like he's running some sort of either Destroy or Bounce deck. He has 6 cards in his hand, so plays 1 card out. We'll draw him 2, but then he'll deny him 1 draw. So since he's running Maximus as well, we can maybe assume he's playing some sort of also Master Mold list. So I'm going to go ahead, play Master Mold out, I think, here. He has a full hand. He might drop 2 cards here. I think I might play Master Mold over here. I'm not sure. Maybe we make him destroy his own card later on because he's technically losing the Rickety Bridge. Yeah, I think this is fine. Play these both out. He played 2 cards. We filled up his hand. His hand is now 7. He's now losing. It looks like a Sarah tech list with the Bishop and Quinjet. We're going to play Ronin over here. He snapped us, which means he's pretty confident. I'm feeling pretty confident myself. We can always Magneto him over to the Rickety Bridge, both the Maximus and the Bishop. Alright, so he was just doing a Kang snap, which makes sense. Seeing what our plan is here. We do have priority, and he's running a tech list. So there is a chance that he is going to be running a Shang here. I think it might be worth considering playing Ronin mid here. If he plays into Jotunheim, he's going to be at 0 next turn. I think I'm going to still do this. He hasn't played anything. He has a free demon in his hand is the only consideration. But I'm going to do this. We're going to go to a tiebreaker most likely because of Rickety Bridge. And with the tiebreaker, we're kind of going to force him to play all of his cards mostly right. So he has to fill up the Rickety Bridge and play a Shang-Chi middle to have a chance of winning. And even then, he'd have to fill up here as well because 9, 14. He has 13. I guess the Bishop will grow. So yeah, he really has to work really hard, I think, to get this to work. And again, during these videos, I generally do not snap just so I can see it played out. But when I see Rickety Bridge here and he's running a zoo type list, it's really hard for them to get a lot of value. So I probably would have snapped on the Rickety Bridge turn. I did play the Ronin mid to avoid. He had Kang, so he knew we were maybe playing a Ronin. I didn't want to get Shang-Chi sniped, which is why I played it where I did. Ronin is also going to lose power here, but he's going to lose any power that he plays onto Jotunheim. Oh, wow. He filled up the bridge. Insane. This is definitely unexpected. I don't think we win this. I think he expected the arrow coming down. He was able to play a lot more than I thought he'd be able to. I guess the Sentinels only cost 1. Consideration there. But yeah, we still end up winning this game just because of the tiebreaker again. And I lied. Because of Mysterio. So knowing what he did here, the only way that we would have won this is if we had gone for the Cosmo play. We would have had to play Cosmo Killmonger to stop the Juggernaut from bumping us off of Jotunheim. Would have given us 4 more value here because we only lost the tiebreaker by 3, so we needed 4 total more value. So that was the only way we were going to win this because everything else was going to get yeeted over to the rickety bridge. So this game, at least we got a lizard in our hand. A little bit better here. Sinister London is actually pretty good with this deck. I don't think I want to copy the lizard because it's likely that Sinister London will get filled up. So I'd rather try and avoid having this be only a 2-cost card on our Sinister London play. However, I do not mind giving him a ton of cards here because he's at 5. He plays 1, he's at 4. So at most, I'm drawing him 2 extra cards. So copying this is probably fine. And giving him extra cards is actually good if we end up drawing Ronin. So let's White Queen here. It will give us 2 cards. So we will be able to see what he's running. And if he's running 2 top-end cards, we might get 2 different cards. So he's a Destroyer deck. He's a Shuri deck. That was only a single Shuri, luckily. There's a chance he goes for the 32 play here. Being a Destroyer deck, it's either Nimrod here or Destroyer coming down. I'd assume Nimrod is what we're expecting to see. So if it's Nimrod, I'd rather he only copy 1 Nimrod, so then he'd have 25 power mid that we have to beat. Yeah, I think I might do the 50-50. I lost the 50-50, and there is the Nimrod. So he's doing a single Destroyer. Single Destroyer on the right. Single Destroyer on the right gives him 2 Nimrods on the right. So we're never winning the right, but we can easily win the left. So I think we need... I think we always win the left if he destroys the right. So if he destroys left, though, however, we always win the left. Okay. So we should win this game with Magneto either way. Have to do a lot of considerations. Whenever they have 2 Nimrods, it always 2 Nimrods in other lanes. Whenever they destroy it, it always goes with 2 in the lane that they weren't in and 1 still in each of those lanes. So you only have to do the math for that. Pretty easy game. We did not play any of our cool cards though. Basically just the good stuff list this game. So we have the new location in the game. After you play a card here, add a Sentinel to your hand. Pretty good with Ronin. Anytime someone's playing a card here, they're getting a Sentinel in their hand, clogging it up forever. I didn't have a good turn 2 play, so I played into it to get a Sentinel, in case we want to play a Sentinel. And now our opponent is going to also have 6 cards in his hand. He plays 1 out, we fill it up with Maximus, meaning he doesn't get a card draw, so we're essentially just only drawing him 1 card with Maximus if he plays 1 card. If he plays 0 cards, we don't give him any extra draws. Murder roll is fine. After turn 3, it no longer goes off, so this lives. I think I'm still going to fight for the Baxter building this turn. We have arrow in hand, so we pretty much just need to fight for priority. The main part of this good stuff list is fighting for priority and trying to arrow them. The only time you switch that up is if you see they're playing like a Zoo or a Sarah-like deck like we had seen in the first game, where they're able to swarm and you can't really get that arrow play. The only reason I went for the arrow play in that final game was because of the rickety bridge going for the tiebreaker, and we were ahead by a lot, I felt like. He was just able to play a little bit more than I had expected. The Quinjet plus Sarah definitely affected the Sentinels he was able to play out there. So we know he's a death deck now. We didn't really know from just Killmonger. Killmonger is a tech card that can be put in a lot of decks, but now we have a death of our own, which is very strong. A death deck typically is going to be running something like Wave here. So I think I don't think they're going to run a big card to play into the Baxter building, so we're going to just play Ronin here, and then we just have Arrow for the final turn. Because they have to have an 8 power card or bigger to play on the Baxter building. Their biggest card is typically Death, She-Hulk, and Wave. So I technically could play She-Hulk here into the Baxter building, and then we would be in trouble. But nope, they went for mid.
Enough said, bub.
And now we have the final turn priority with the arrow going into Orcus Forge. If the Wolverine dies and comes over here, it's still only 12 power, so we're still fine. We don't have to worry about some weird Galactus play or anything like that because all his lanes are filled up. This deck doesn't really run swarm type cards that I've seen. It is more of a traditional death list if it's running Wolverine. We pulled everything. It's probably a Shang-Chi. Yep. We knew they had a demon.
Victory.
But yeah, with 3 spots available, they can't Shang-Chi and drop 3 other cards, so we were pretty set there. Now we're on to our second deck. One thing is with Elysium with Master Mold, it's a little bit awkward because giving them 2 Sentinels they can play out each turn is a little bit weird, but I do still like it. It kind of baits people into playing a lot of Sentinels as opposed to other cards. But I think we're going to wait 1 turn on giving them that extra boost here. Maybe 2 turns. Maybe wait to see if they play a bunch of Sentinels here. So we're going to give ourselves a Sentinel. Again, this is our other list now. We're playing the Darkhawk list. This Darkhawk list, they're kind of doing a combination of trying to fill up their hand and also keep their deck size big. So by filling up their hand and denying draws, it does help keep the Darkhawk bigger. Plus at the same time, making a Ronin large as well. So it is the classic Thanos list. And with that, his hand is full. So we have priority. Priority is actually really good here with this Master Mold play. Just because we now can copy 2 Master Molds. I don't even think I'm going to play the Sentinel out here because of the Sinister London that just came up. But if he plays out any cards, if he plays out 3 cards, if he plays out 2 cards, they're going to be filled up with Sentinels in his hand and deny any draws. So played 2, so now he gets 2 Sentinels to replace those 2 cards. Any cards that he tried drawing, which he didn't try drawing anything. So this turn he can leech. So we want to stop the potential leech play by playing out our 2 tech cards here. And we don't want to accidentally fill up both of our lanes with this, so we're still going to just do this. Unfortunately, leech will kill our Ronin. I think it's more important to kill his cards. No leech. Still have a Ronin. Very good. Go mid, please. Nice. Then we blow up his sunspot. So if we had held on to our tech cards in this against a deck that runs leech, we run into that risk of not being able to kill stuff later. Now, we're not as worried about it. We're still worried about leech. We're ahead by a little bit more. We don't really run many big cards that are effective against leech, so we kind of have to play Ronin out now, forcing him to play Shang-Chi on the final turn. Hopefully, wherever the Magneto goes, it'll pull the Killmonger back. Nice. So we get the extra Sinister London spots. Unfortunately, this does make it so he wins here, but we do have the arrow. Arrow will copy itself over and pull everything off, so we don't have to worry about that. We play Sentinel because we don't need a Cord because we don't have Darkhawk out. We just have the Master Mold Ronin play. The Master Mold having 2 Sentinels in his hand plus, yeah, I guess just 2 Sentinels in hand, in that he can't completely remove his hand, which I doubt he would be able to anyway because he probably wants to copy cards of Sinister London. But he can play out a lot because of Elysium. I do think that we're going to be fine here. We're adding 10 more power here. We're pulling any cards, unless he's able to fill this up, play cards into Sinister London to win. Because we're only adding 10 power, and he's probably removing a few cards from his hand. But if he's playing any of the... If he's playing any stones, they'll draw him cards. So I think we should be okay. Yeah, we are definitely okay because it's pulling everything off. There's no way his cards are over 20 power. Or don't give a Ronin more power. Yep. So Sentinel there for him is only worth 1. And he drew rocks.
Victory.
Unfortunately, our Ronin just got iced. But we got a turn 2 mold. And we don't have a turn 3 play, so again, we're going to play into Orcus Forge, give ourselves a Sentinel to be able to play out on the next turn. Wolverine always has a consideration to be Galactus. Is either Galactus or Destroy deck. We're going to play out the Sentinel. Keeping our hand size a little bit larger than we might necessarily want, but it's kind of fine. We're going to probably play a Rock Slide next turn, depending on if we want a Darkhawk or Rock Slide. Generally, you want a Rock Slide earlier. So this looks like Galactus. We don't have priority. We do have Shang. We unfortunately played Sentinel into the naked lane. We probably should have thought about that. We don't run Cosmo on this list. I think we have to play out the Ronin. We could play the Sarah. Cards are going to cost 1 more next turn, so we're not going to be able to play Sarah anyway. I think we still play the Ronin. We're going to play into the Dream Dimension here. Hope he doesn't have Shang-Chi in his hand if he plays Galactus out.
Opponent snapped.
Because he's going to have 2 turns. Part of the problem with a double turn play here is that they can always Spider-Man us on turn 5. I could have played nothing here to give up priority. But because of Spider-Man being a card, we can't afford to give up priority. The null is not going to be that large because there wasn't that much power. So he pretty much needs to have Shang-Chi to win the game. Yeah, so there's the Spider-Man. And now he needs Shang-Chi to win. And you know what? We played Master Mold early. He's been having a clogged hand the entire time. He has 4 cards left in his deck, meaning we denied 1 draw. We're going to stick it out. And he might think we're retreating later and try and stay in. But I don't think he waits this long, you know, if he just has a Shang-Chi. Be an instant Shang-Chi play here, right? He might be doing the null math and realize he doesn't have it. He's only reducing us by 1, so we're going to 30. So he needs 21 power. Null is not 21 power. No card is 21 power that he could play out here. It's just Shang-Chi and that's it. I guess also Enchantress, but no one knows that. And there you go. Easy win, easy life. We predicted the Spider-Man play. That was why we played the Ronin, didn't pass for the Shang-Chi. When they have 2 turns left after Galactus, you have to watch out for the Spider-Man. And this is the only winning route here. But yeah, GG's. Thanks for watching. See you guys next time. Be sure to drop a sub while you're here, you know. More content coming. See you guys.